And some of the comics that they don't want to use for TV and they don't want to use in projects, one of the reasons they don't want to use them is because they'll outshine their fucking people. And that's not good when you come to me and you're fucking little bummy, greasy. Listen, I've always said it. I did the podcast 2 years ago and I spoke about it. Comics have been removed from the biggest forum. There's 500 channels. When you turn on cable, how many fucking cable channels are there?
1 million.
1 million. And there's 30 comics working. And I mean guys that are raw, guys that are funnier than half these fucking Harvey Homo types they put on TV to fucking soothe white America. It's got to end. Listen, man, I don't know if you remember this. This is a good story for the people at home in young comics. One of the best clubs in the country is Wise Guys Comedy Club.
Mm-hmm.
The one in Utah is one of my favorite clubs in the country. If I was touring, I would still be going there. If I had to pick my 10 favorite clubs, I would still be going there. The guy that owns it's a great guy. I've known him since the late 90s on Tribble tours. That guy's busted his ass. I think he's got 4 rooms now. I think he's got 2 in Utah and 1 in Vegas. He opened.
I think he might have 2 in Vegas, to be honest.
Yeah, 2 in Vegas. The guy's doing great. You know, I asked my agent when I first got to CAA, I go, what's going on with that club in Utah? And he goes, I talk to that guy from time to time. He's just a little scared. You know, last time he put somebody dirty in there, the Chamber of Commerce got a bunch of letters and all this shit. And he's always been a little touchy. You know, he does good with magicians and people with tambourines and shit like that. And I remember driving through Utah and seeing that club. I don't know for what. I think it was me and Rogan for some commercial. I don't know. And I was like, that's a nice fucking club. And I told my agent to call him. He'll call this motherfucker and tell him this podcast has changed the game. People want to hear these motherfuckers. The people that Comedy Central's pushing, nobody wants to hear them.
Right.
There was a handful of comics that needed to get the fuck out there. And I hate to say this, I was one of them.
What do you mean?
They needed to get out there. That was their time now. You could stop fucking selling your fucking boring ass people. There's a whole list of comics that are doing podcasts that are starting to come up in a different way. They're starting to open up their lives, something that's never been done before, talk about their addictions, going to prison, their fears. It's a different type of comic coming up now. We were doing podcasts, and all those guys in our neighborhood, from Ari to Brian to Bert to Tom, that was early 2012, Lee, 2013.
Yeah.
Like 2014, we were rocking and fucking rolling for us, for who we were. It was the Rogan satellite hemisphere. We had Mark Maron fucking throwing heat. Mark's still throwing heat, you know, and there was a bunch of young comics coming up. Our podcast was coming up. Ari's was coming up. Red Bands was coming up. Ice House Chronicles were coming up.
Yeah, those were fun days.
And it was a fun period. It was a very fun period. And we grew like no other fucking group of comics ever. That was a spectacular fucking growth, you know?
As a fan, it was fun. Like, I remember, like, those Ice House Chronicles, and then, like, the early Rogan. Like, that's how I found you, was early Rogan. And then, like, early... Even all of your guys' podcasts, because you guys were just, you know, you were guests on it, but like not like there was every story was new, and there was never anything like it. So like I would love to know more about, as a comic, what it was like. What did it feel like back then?
It was great that my agent was called. Now, 2012, I started in 91.
Mm-hmm.
So how many years am I in the game now? In 2000, well, when was Mercy born?
2021.
So 21 years I'm in the game, and I'm telling this guy signs me. I did a bunch of one-nighters. I think you came with me with Felicia to Cobb's. We did a bunch of one-nighters, me and Felicia, and I sold out Cobb's. And I'm like, and then I went out there and bombed. But it was podcast people. They wanted to hear the wig story, drug stories. This is way back. And I still remember my agent. I'm telling them, call this guy. Like to bust people's balls that didn't like me. And it was still like, nah, we don't know. We don't know. Last time he was here, he fucking did this. He hasn't been here in 15 years, but last time he was here, he did this. And it was always some fucking pushback. And then the guy would hear something. The guy would hear from another club owner. Duncan Trussell was here, and he sold out the whole fucking weekend. Something's going on with those guys. And then I started, like they started, but the money was real low.
Okay.
And then, like, I would go in there, sell 200 tickets a night, 5 nights. That's a lot of tickets when you can't sell a fucking ticket. 1,000 tickets on a weekend? It's a lot of tickets, even though you didn't sell out a show. The room was $250.
Whenever it was, let's just say 2010. How many tickets were you selling a weekend?
18.
That's a big difference.
18. And that was after the longest yard. So don't believe the fucking hype. The longest yard, just let them know. 2010, I got married in 2009. I was already thinking of bailing. And then I think 2010 is when Felicia came along. And we started the podcast. It went for about 3 months and nobody knew nothing. We couldn't get a sponsor. And then I told the story about mugging the hooker and lighting her wig on fire. And I booked Sal's Comedy Hole on 10/10/2010. And it's Sunday night. It's 6:45. The show starts at 8. And I'm on the 101 South. I'm 8 minutes away. And my phone's ringing. And he's telling me to hurry up down there because we got a line around the corner. And I'm like, just fucking tell me that, don't tell me there's a line around the corner. He goes, no, we sold 150 tickets. I'm like, what are you talking about? And he goes, I'm telling you, man, there's a bunch of people down here. And I went down and I was in shock and I ate a bag of dicks.